Pretty pleased with how things are going. I've mentioned prior with the earlier areas of Eden Zero, the chapters have felt more like in this introductory period. You know, if you've read Rave Master and Fairy Tale, you know that Hiroshima, there's a good first piece of the series that, you know, it's just about establishment, getting you to the characters and the world and the powers and whatnot. But then it gets into, shortly after, a big crazy arc where things tend to go pretty ham. You know, go back to Eden Zero, you get the big battle between Haru and Shuda, and then leading up with Berito with Natsu versus Gajio. And I'm wondering if this arc will be that for Shiki. And it looks like it might be this one from what I can tell, and I'll mention why I think that might be. And I'm starting to rethink Drac and Joe's position. Instead of, you know, being something again like Gajil for Tanatsu, he might be something more like Jalal, where he's not, you know, a pretty powerful boss. He's like a raid boss, not the full extent of, you know, like a big absurd arc villain where it takes like the whole crew to defeat, but where it just seems like the main character is all around outgunned and they need to have some like big overcome moment, or maybe that'll be when they'll unlock their first power up form, you know, that whole standard. But with this, we see beginning Paul's talking to Rebecca. He's got the cube with, you know, that sick, is it a maple leaf, you know, the one that we always see on Amora's clothing, but it's got apparently information on Valkyrie and why she can't, you know, she's not going to leave and she's stuck here, or at least deciding to stay here. But those are very, I'm starting to really like Paul. I see he's like talking to that robot bird, and I'm curious if it's like, if he actually can understand it. Like, you know, that you get like certain times in like fiction where a character will just talk to a robot. They're just making like noises and beeps and whatnot, but somehow a character is, you know, in their point in time, they've just learned how to understand this robot language, or if he's just, you know, a weirdo. But we pan him back to Garrett, who, you know, is like pushed himself out of the hole in the ceiling that Shiki threw him into. And I think this is what made me happy, because up until this point, like we're still getting characters where they weren't supposed to be big opponents for like Shiki. They were just supposed to be for us to like get an understanding of who he was. Like, you know, okay, these are the things that ticks him off. This is what, you know, is weak part of his personality. These are like his moves and fighting styles and how he like thinks in the heat of battle and how he reacts to things. But, you know, I was like, man, I really want him to get a fight. He's just kind of like been crushing people up into this point. Like, still, you don't expect every single fight the character gets into to be, you know, some big bloody like tooth to tooth, claw to claw battle. But, you know, you got to keep also in mind that the first one the main character has is going to be pretty impactful. Again, look at something like Gajo versus Natsu. That was a big staple fight for them. Same Judah. And I don't think it'll be this guy, but I would like it to maybe be some form of still pretty tough opponent. Not that like big, like he barely beats the enemy, you know, he just barely scrapes by, going all out fight, but one that he definitely has trouble with. You know, he definitely comes out like somewhat damaged, and he's like, damn, that was actually kind of hard. And with Garrett just kind of comes down, and he's a little bit damaged. Like he's got a little bit of blood on him. He's got some scrapes, but he's seemingly fine. And I was worried because like this guy, he has this appearance of one of those characters who's just like, he's just kind of a dick to be a dick, and he becomes this kind of a throwaway character. One of those ones that you're just like, I don't care what happens to this guy. He's just a jerk. There's nothing like too much about him. So whatever. He can go off and lose, and it won't. None of the fans will really give a damn. But he seems to actually be somewhat powerful, somewhat to the extent we don't know. Obviously, if he was able to take a combo attack from Shiki and he's still fine, then he has to again at least be somewhere near his level, I imagine. And he ends up using, because he has partial ability to tap into the Scarlet Eyes, you know, those blade satellites that kurenai used, and like teleport Shiki and Omura away. He's like, I'm going to send you to the Black Rock. That's the main mine. You know, he's never been able to defeat any of the stones there, which makes me wonder why, like, they say main mine as like this one, or it's apparently like we can't defeat stuff there. The big terrifying like boss monsters are there, and those are too much for us right now. Like, wouldn't you call it like the potential, like the potential, like I guess it wouldn't be gold, jackpot mine or something. It'd be like, once we figure out how to go against this, we're gonna make so much more. But I thought this was cool because it would give them a sense of, maybe being able to see their full extent while, putting up some display of what they're dealing with, showing like, okay, these characters with ether gear, especially 2 combat styled ether gear, if they're able to push up and defeat one of these big boss characters that maybe it's like, oh yeah, you only need to defeat a couple, and then bam, the collars come off. That'd be okay, but at the same time, it would also, maybe give some hope to some of the other slum people. But once Garrett, ushers him away, he's just like, damn, that pissed me off. I should have killed him with my own 2 hands. I'm annoyed that I let him go, but if he ends up even beating the monster, then we're going to get a bunch of metal, and Kurenai's going to be pretty happy about it. And then this spooky guy comes up, this alien, and I've been talking about before because I discussed recently in like the stream because people ask me certain questions about series. With Eden Zero, they asked me about like if they should have like demons and stuff. I would rather just like any of the non-human like creatures in Eden Zero be some form of alien, just because sci-fi, space themed, and this like big tusky. I don't really know what I would call this guy. He has kind of like a lion-like face with tusks. I guess it'd be like a lion bear or something. And he comes up in his, they call him the Axe Punisher Baku. And he actually looks pretty cool. And even on top of that, with his size, I guess his whole forte is going to be speed. Because, when Garrett asks him, like, how long he's been there, and the Baku's just like, don't you know how fast don't you know how fast I am? I just got here. But he actually, he gives off a equal to at least, if not more intimidating presence as he's talking to him and being like, Kurenai wants a meeting where, she wants all of her people there. And Garrett's just like, I don't know. Let me call it in. I'm pretty pissed off right now. But he talks about how the Scarlet Woman, Kurenai, is too. So I'm wondering what she's mad about. Because the last time we saw her, she burnt the face off of that dude. And she was planning to, backstab Drac and Joe. So I'm curious to know what exactly she has to be pissed off about. Maybe an event happened in that amount of time. I think it'd be really cool if we went back to her and maybe there was some chaos happening, like maybe like someone screwed with like her satellites or something, because like Drac and Joe, like I said, the thing about Drac and Joe that I'm hoping is going to be part of this character, it's just a theory at the moment, that he's about like, he wants to be a good business person. He's all about money. He's all about, the ties between, what is it, partner or customer and client or business partner in these kind of scenarios. And he wants to always have something set up in case someone tries to be dishonest and turn against him in their financial endeavor, I'll just say. And if that is the case, he'd be like, I want to have this in place, but I don't want to have to use he'd rather go smoothly and everyone profit, especially him, but he always wants to be prepared. He just seems like that guy to me at the moment, like one of those characters, because he's like this, supposed to be like this business built mobster, that he's always got stuff set up in case someone tries to backstab him. Like he is ready for it if the whole occurrence happens. But then back to Shiki and Omura, as they end up like going against this big crystalline weird monster. It like has this body that if you saw it, you'd expect maybe what is the creature? There's a. I'm wondering actually now, thinking about it, if maybe Hiroshima like got some form of influence from it. But there's because he's a big fan of Monster Hunter, and there was one creature in Monster Hunter World, that big. I'm looking it up midstream. Monster Hunter World, rot monster. It's like this big. I want to say like scaly, not zombie-like, but like corpse-ish tiger creature. And you'd think it'd be kind of like that, but in reality it's covered in this crystals, but it has like this big weird like sea anemone mouth on it, like its head. It doesn't seem to have eyes, it just has this big open like fray of what I would guess would be like nerve endings or something. And then Shiki and Omura are like, holy shit, what is that, freaking out? And it's not a bug, but it's obviously, this is still a pretty intimidating thing, because not only does it look really intimidating, but it's also really big. And they end up going against it. Shiki's like, yeah, I bet if we beat this, the color will go right down to 0. He gets up his gravity fist, hits it, and here comes in Omura with her snake flash. Shiki's fist, takes some damage. There's like blood on his knuckles, and Homura's sword breaks. And obviously hers is an ether sword, so her sword breaking, she probably just has to probably easy repair. But they can't do anything against this guy. So this could be a point where they have to maybe overcome, or we'll get an establishment of like maybe this monster will have a ranking, and we'll get something like a system for, oh yeah, this is a blank level creature, alien, a monster like this is capable of, beating the big space warship, or something like that, something impressive about it. Or maybe the density maybe it's not like powerful in it like all around, it's just because like the crystals make its body very durable, and maybe they develop something in order to overcome it, or they have to use their wits instead of just straight attacking. I mean, I guess that would be actually a really cool way to go about it, because Homura doesn't seem that smart. Shiki just seems uneducated. He doesn't seem stupid. He just seems like, he seems just kind of like this uneducated kind of country bumpkin kind of guy. Not like in both that aspect, but more just because he grew up on a planet of robots, really, with nothing else going on for him. But then as they're like freaking out because they don't know what to do to defeat this thing, they're like, damn, that thing almost like fucked us up. And you got those like 1 point little crystal bugs coming in. Obviously, Shiki is nervous because he doesn't like bugs. But then, bam, 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 they get shot down, and here is, the perfect person to go against like a bunch of, spread out like easy fodder is Rebecca, who brought Paul and Pino with her, and she just picking them off one by one with her ether happy bot guns. So now the team is not fully back together, but at least reunited. So I'm hoping that, because there's an interesting like last panel specifically with Paul. I'm wondering what the specific is about that, because it obviously has to have some form of significance for it to be, its own panel, especially the last panel. Maybe Paul is going to say something about that creature. Maybe he'll give us some information on it next chapter, or maybe it's because I feel like the most likely thing is because he's now sees Homura, and he's probably going to give some exposition and story on, Homura and Valkyrie. I feel like that's 99% thing, but I hope that happens. But I would much rather have something about that creature. Just give me one sentence on it. Give me one speech bubble that just says like, oh yeah, that's that thing. It's this powerful. It could swing its arm and take out a city block or something. I don't know, something just to hype up that beast, because this thing is cool enough that I wanted to at least get some form of attention. I don't want this to be one of those character designs that it's like, I guess not character designs in general that's like used and then like you're like, damn, that's really cool, and then forgotten about. I want this to at least have some form of at least give it a name. I want it to at least have a name, so it can have like a wiki page, so I can be like, damn, I remember that thing. I love that design. I hope it comes back one day. But anyway, I think this was one of the most quickly read chapters, and I'm pretty sure like a heavy reason for that is that big beautiful double page of this creature, and a good amount of action in there. There wasn't a whole lot of dialogue, but we got, again, good stuff like this with this monster. We got information again, like leading up with some mystery around Valkyrie and Homura, as well as this new dude Baku. I'm guessing there's going to be a couple more of them, and one of the reasons I think that Draken Joe won't be, his position will be more elevated to a much higher status. Again, I'll compare him to someone like Jalal. But is the reason for that I'm going to put it in is because his crew isn't what's being emphasized here. It's the Scarlet Woman, Kurenai's crew that is obviously being pushed forward, because now we have Garrett, who was able to take hits from Shiki and be relatively fine. And now you got this guy Baku, who definitely seems powerful in his own right. And we'll more than likely see a couple more once they have this meeting. But for now, drop a comment below what you thought about this. I really love this monster design. I thought this was really cool. Definitely one of those ones that I want to see more of. I really like Hiromishima's monster design. And you can tell that he there's actually just a funny side. You can tell his monster designs changed very drastically after he got into, like, he became like a big Monster Hunter fan, especially like when you look at his dragons. If you don't know what I mean, go look at Brave Master dragons, and then early Fairy Tale, like the way that Ignia was, and then like Acnologia and every dragon after that. But other than that, drop a comment below, like I said, thumbs up the video before the like button, subscribe button, and check out my other videos. By that, I appreciate everyone who's already subscribed, and I thank you all for listening. Bye.